You can like, share, and subscribe. That will be greatly appreciated. This channel operates solely through your support, and without any of those things, this channel would be nowhere. So let's get straight into it. I've basically done roughly one FPL draft almost every week since mid-June, since the fixtures were released, and I've literally not tinkered in between. And between each of those drafts, I've not really had a change of heart, as it were. I've generally stuck to those drafts, and obviously, subject to information from friendlies and transfers, I've then adjusted my team accordingly. But I think for the first time, I am going to make a U-turn just due to the way the team is and the way it's actually set up. So I shared my quote unquote penultimate draft earlier today. And upon reflection, to be perfectly frank with you, I'm not happy with it. There are some changes I do want to make, and there are some changes that I did make. So I'm literally going to go into this second version, explain why I'm making those changes, and then implement those changes and see how it works out on an expected FPL points basis. So let's get straight to the squad as a reminder of where I was at, actually, just a heads up before we start chopping and changing. So in goal, I've got Turner, and Turner is a goalkeeper combination with Areola right now. And it's a big risk having Turner, like I've said, because he's still an Arsenal player. And the intention is that he'll switch over to Nottingham Forest, subject to that transfer being confirmed. But as it stands right now, he's an Arsenal player. So there is a risk having him in right now. But I feel that subject to like Henderson as well being in the picture or not, I'm content with having Turner as a 4.0 starting goalkeeper with Areola as my sub one. There was talk of Fabianski potentially losing his place um, at, at the start of pre-season, and he actually didn't do that well, with West Ham conceding a significant number of goals in the previous pre-season game. So just keep that in mind as well, that perhaps Areola can still come into the mix. With the defensive line, I think Estupinan and Gabriel fairly locked in. I wanted Zinchenko, but there's questions about his fitness. And the reason I wanted Zinchenko over Gabriel or Saliba was purely due to the new referee guidelines, which basically um, mean that we'll have longer injury time. So that's something that needs to be factored in as well, because we'll have a lot of these clean sheet wipeouts in the 99th or 100th minute of matches. So the hope is that with a Zinchenko type player might get subbed off before all of that madness kicks in. Akanji is the Manchester City defender. There are uh, questions about him as well, and I'm going to explain my thought process on which alternative Manchester City defender I am going to buy. So I will be flipping out Akanji from this updated penultimate draft. Onto the attack: Saka, Fernandes, Rashford, Mitoma, Salah, Pedro, Haaland. Pretty much happy with all of them except for a change of heart on one player and also João Pedro's ex-Mins. It just seems like Brighton seem to be signing all these like random players, and it's just absolutely like problematic for like ex-Mins. I've spoken to many like season ticket holders from Brighton as well, and also observers of the way they play. And Pedro's ex-Mins could be at significant risk. So obviously, generous run of opening games for Brighton, but I don't want to be in a situation where the ex-Mins are being affected, especially when we're going to get quote unquote more injury time in the first half, in the second half. So I need to get that factored in as well. So bit of an annoying one there. I still believe that 3-5-2 is the optimal formation for game week one. If you're able to make 3-5-2 work due to the new refereeing guidelines, due to the value in midfield and the frontline attack, then you're absolutely loving it. If you can get 3-5-2 to work with Ollie Watkins in your front line alongside Haaland, alongside a power midfield five and a relatively decent defence, then fair play to you. I want Ollie Watkins in my team, but then there's another player who's literally screaming at me, who's not in this 11 right now, who I'm going to get in, and I'm going to explain why as well. And I've noticed we've got quite a few people on this stream. Thank you very much for joining. Just to repeat, if you can like, share, and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat, and I'm more than happy to address them as well. So I will explain the thought process as to why I'm making these changes. If you have any feedback, I will literally address it in real time as well. Otherwise, if you're listening back on playback, I'll answer questions where I can afterwards. So look, let's not mess about. Let's go straight into the transfers page, and I'll explain why I am making the changes that I'm about to make. So yeah, look, big caveat on the goalkeeping front. Turner and Areola may not be sustainable, but I am going to hold onto this goalkeeper combination so long as the transfer is confirmed of Turner going to Nottingham Forest. Oddly enough, I believe Forest's other goalkeepers, it's Hennessy, who I believe is red flags, and also they've got someone who actually was Luton's main goalkeeper last season who got them promoted. So they could easily start him instead of Turner. So there is a big concern with this 4.0 goalkeeper double up, but I'm going to make it work for the reasons that I will explain. So look, straight off from the bat, I really wanted double City defense to work. And I was looking for the ideal City defender to have. But as we're about to see, Pep Roulette is really a nightmare for us. I'm just going to go through this on transfer market right now for positioning, something that is quite useful to know, and it's free to view as well. So this is Kyle Walker's positioning from last season, as we can see on the screen there. Primarily operate as a right back, sometime as a centre back, and also that RM role as well. And he featured in 27 out of 38 games. So also we can see that Community Shield, like where he played as well. So you'd expect Kyle Walker to start at right back for Man City. And as we can see, like last season as well, look at those opening games. And I've actually tracked back to the previous seasons as well under Pep with Kyle Walker in the team. He has generally started the season. And then there are times where he's injured, doesn't feature obviously, gets subbed off quite early as well, which is problematic. But interestingly enough, he then finished the season pretty much playing a full 90 from game week 31 till game week 38. I'm not saying that Kyle Walker is a safe City defender, but he does appear to be safer than some others. So the next defender here is a Kanji, who played in 29 games last season, primarily as a centre back, and he can obviously cover on either flank as well. So high chance of him potentially starting, and he is currently in my draft at this moment in time. However, the other defender that they have, who I believe is flagged right now, is Nathan Ake, who has played as a centre back, but he can also play on the left side as well. And then you've got Ruben Diaz, who's played 26 games last season for City, all as a centre back. And let's not forget Laporte as well. Played as a centre back, of course, only, but just a handful of games. What in total about a dozen games in the Premier League. And then coming on to John Stones, he's obviously been playing in that slightly more advanced DM role as a centre back and occasionally as a right back as well. And then, just for the sake of it, because he's not going to feature, but Cancelo obviously primarily operated as a left back. And then lastly, a player who's just recently signed, and he just for the sake of getting his positioning here as well, solely operated as a centre back in the Bundesliga for was it RB Leipzig? Don't want to say it wrong. Yeah, it was RB Leipzig. So he's basically played in that position. So clearly, just by looking at the positioning, the centre back slot is going to have a lot of competition. So I don't think that I don't think Guardiola will start from the get-go. He might need some time to bed into the team. I think Akanji might potentially get a start, but risk of rotation. I think Ruben Diaz, very likely to start as well. Again, I'm not someone who predicts team lineups, but if you ask me which 3 defenders are very likely to feature in that opening game against Burnley, I would say Kyle Walker, Akanji, Diaz, potentially Stones as well. But the question is, which player out of all the ones that I've shown has the least competition for his own respective position and can potentially operate elsewhere as well? It clearly is Kyle Walker. And we can see the track record and the trust that Pep Guardiola has with him from the start of the season and also to dead end the season as well. So the change I'm going to make right now in defence is getting Akanji out and get Kyle Walker in. Again, it's not like the most amazing transfer. It's a boring transfer. But I'm also hoping that Kyle Walker won't lose any value because he won't be bought in the droves. And ultimately, the player I do want to buy, the Man City defender, who he's a placeholder for, is Gvardiol, essentially. Sorry for mispronouncing his name, just a mouthful there. So he's the player that I ultimately want to get in. So let me just confirm that now. So here we go. So Kanji out and Walker comes in. Now, the other move I wanted to make, I wanted double City defense, but it's just too risky right now. So the problem I have is that 3-5-2 is, I could just save this, to be honest with you, 3-5-2, but with this, but I'm just not happy with Pedro. The X-Mins do worry me massively. So straight off the bat, Pedro goes out, and I'm going to bring in a 4.5 striker. It'll probably be Archer, purely because I feel that even though there's value in getting a 3-5-2 in place, I'm just concerned about the minutes from Pedro. And it would be so annoying having a player who's got a generous run of games who's hardly featuring. So I'm kind of going against what I want to do. And for this draft, for this penultimate draft, out goes Pedro, in comes Archer. And sorry, I've made a mistake here. That isn't the move I want to do. Out goes Pedro, in comes Harry Kane. Sorry, I've just had a mind blank there. I want to get in Harry Kane. And the reason I want to get Harry Kane in, I feel that he was completely under the radar last season. Just look at that. A 9-point difference between Kane and Haaland last season. Of course, Haaland had 45 goal involvements last season. Harry Kane had 39. But let's just remind ourselves, that was Haaland in a treble-winning Manchester City team. And that was Harry Kane in probably one of the worst Spurs teams in the last few years. So I find it quite remarkable that he's still performed. Think about the pressure he's been under, the rumours about moves here and there. And if there was anything that was to question how unsettled he was, over the weekend, he scores 4 goals. And then the news has come out today that the bid has been rejected by the Tottenham board from Bayern Munich as well. So, barring a huge increase in that bid, which I highly doubt, I think Kane is going to stay at Spurs this season under a very attacking manager. And it's clear that if Spurs are going to score goals this season, then Harry Kane is going to score them again. So there's no question about it. But obviously, in comes Harry Kane. I can't have Mohamed Salah, Kane and Haaland. One of those players has to go. And in this instance, I don't know why, but I want to get rid of Mohamed Salah for the simple reason that I look at the fixtures that Liverpool have in the first 4 games. Chelsea at Stamford Bridge will be tricky. Okay, Bournemouth at home, relatively easy, but we know what happened with Salah and Bournemouth last season in that 9-0 win where he did nothing. So anything's possible there. Newcastle at St James's Park will be tricky. Aston Villa under Unai Emery is a tricky match. And then you've got Wolves away. Okay, fair enough. West Ham at home, reasonable. Spurs away will be tricky. Brighton away will be tricky. I think that some of these fixtures for Liverpool should really be red block fixtures rather than grey block fixtures. And then just further down, Everton at home. Okay, Merseyside derby. Then you've got Forest, Luton, Brentford. Then it gets a bit easier. And then you've got Man City. So my thinking basically is that Kane has had a fantastic run of form under a very poor team over the past 12 months. And that has not been spoken about enough. It simply hasn't. So, from my perspective, it makes complete sense to get Harry Kane in, at least for a penultimate draft. Can I justify keeping Harry Kane for the long haul? I don't know. But in this formation, which I'm going to confirm, out goes Mohamed Salah. Regrettably, in comes Harry Kane, and now I need another defender as well and another midfielder. So I'm going to get rid of Kabore purely because Luton have the blank in game week 2, and I'm going for a 4-man defense, something which I didn't want to do, and it doesn't sit well with me because the other player I actually wanted to get, I could actually keep Kabore, and the player that I actually wanted from all of the players that I have could have selected, and I don't even know what his fitness is right now, and I'm going to Everton. He's just sticking out to me like a Michu candidate if there ever was one, and it will be controversial for some, but I'm really looking at Danjuma, but unfortunately he's yellow flagged. He's got this 50% chance of playing, so that kind of burnt that one. And then in the 5.5 million midfield positioning, there isn't really anyone, to be honest with you. It just looks sorted by selected by, just looking at the options. Enciso ex-Mind, Rice not attacking enough, Anderson dud sub, Baptiste dud sub, Casemiro 5.5 yellow card magnet, Enzo just too deep, Douglas Luiz overpriced, Pereira no, and then you just go down. I mean Rodrigo 5.5 no way. That was the one player I would have got for 5.5 million if he wasn't yellow flagged. So with regret, I now have to get a 4.5 million midfielder and then balance the books in defense and get a 5.0 defender. So the the 4.5 million midfielder, I'm just looking for someone who I think will likely start. Obviously, it's got a blank in game week 2. So in comes Nakamba. Now I've got the million spare. I need a defender at 5.0 million. And my thinking was, you know what? Why don't I go double City defense? You look at the generous run of games, but then we saw how they conceded late on against Arsenal. So it's not like they've improved. I believe that with Guardiola in defense, when he beds in, they'll get better. No doubt about it. And I think he'll be a regular starter for them. But then I look at the fixtures. Burnley away. Okay, have double City defense maybe. And then Newcastle problematic, and there's the blank, so may not have any defenders with Luton or Burnley, Sheffield United. So I can see the logic in having like an Edison and another centre back. Like if I had the funds, Diaz and Edison, I would do it, but I'm not gonna get a million out of some sort of magic tree, as it were. So what I've decided actually is I look for the next best good run of games, and it's Arsenal, Forest, Palace, Fulham. And even double Arsenal defence scares me to some extent as well. And again, when it comes to defenders, like I've said, new referee guidelines, centre backs, yes, they are sitting ducks, but in the short term, I'm prepared to invest in double Arsenal defence and double centre backs as well. I don't know with like you got Cedric, Timber, Tierney, I'm not too sure. I just know that Gabriel and Saliba, barring injuries, will start for Arsenal, and I just want like some sort of cover for them. I want some decent defensive cover if I'm going 4-4-2. So it makes sense. And then you look at the budget. Oh, I've got too many Arsenal players. What's gone on here? What's happened here? Oh, it's because Turner's still an Arsenal player. Oh dear, oh dear. Let's just pick a temporary 4.0 goalkeeper. Completely forgot about that. But yeah, that's ruined that for now. I mean, let's for argument's sake, let's pick. None of these players are likely to start, but let's just pick Forster. So Forster is the Turner placeholder, and it's going to be hard to justify this right now. But oh dear, that's just kind of messed it all up now. That's not going to work. All right. Even that is shaky. You know what? Let's just pick a 4 point. No. Oh, it's messed it up. And we don't even know if he's playing yet. Okay, let's change it. I didn't plan this. Okay, let's go back. Saliba, come back in, and we'll just have the we'll just have a placeholder 4.0. So Spurs. Yeah, Forster's not going to start. It'll be that new Italian goalkeeper, but I'll just pick him for now. I'll confirm the changes. And then coming on to my draft, do my famous super zoom in. So out goes Nakamba. In comes Saliba. I know this is a very light bench, and I've got a chance that the goalkeepers may not start at all, but this is all subject to Turner making the move to Nottingham Forest. So let's just save those changes for now. Yeah, so I want to reiterate, this is not a final draft. This is my penultimate updated draft. I need something to work with. And before I continue, I'm now going to put this into my expected FPL stats data as well to see if there's been an improvement in my squad from the previous draft as well. But anyway, here goes. So Forster is the Turner placeholder, provided he goes to Nottingham Forest well before Friday. If he doesn't go by Wednesday, let's say, then I doubt even it's not going to work. So out he would go. Backline of Estupinan, Gabriel, Walker, Saliba. I think that's relatively safe for the first few game weeks. And then the attack, Saka, Fernandes, Rashford, Mitoma. And I've got Kane and Haaland as my strikers. And then just dud subs ultimately. So I'm going to run this through now, my expected stats table that I have through DraftHound. And I'll put a link in the description below for anyone that's interested in trying it out as well. So I've been asked about Gvardiol as well as a starting City defender, that ultimately I would get him, but I'd be shocked if he started the first game. I think they'll just bed him in for like a game or two, and then he'll probably start alongside Ruben Diaz perhaps. Does it mean Akanji loses out or Akanji goes on one of the flanks perhaps? Perhaps, but I'm not going to start Gvardiol. I'll just go with Walker for now. So here is my draft now with the expected FPL stats data. I'm able to have, thankfully, Turner in this one. Let me just see if I can do my super zoom here. Oh, that's too much. So my expected FPL points in my previous draft were 61 points, 59 points, I beg your pardon. Here, it's 61 points, 60.7, but let's just assume that Turner also makes the move to Nottingham Forest, and he, I don't know, keeps like a save, only concedes one goal. So let's just keep it at 61 points. And then, interestingly enough, Estupinan, Saliba, Gabriel, Walker as the back line. Mitoma, Saka, Rashford, Fernandes, and then Kane and Haaland. I believe if it comes to expected FPL points, as we can see there, it's expected that Salah is going to outscore Kane in the first game week. And if I extend that to the first 3 game weeks, then the projection is that Salah is the go-to pick over Kane. Again, not a huge amount in it, but that's what the expected FPL points are saying. But I would argue that the fixtures are trickier for Kane than they are for Salah than they are for Kane. So I'm happy to stick with Kane in this penultimate draft. Now, stuff might come up between now and Friday, might get cold feet. I might switch to Mohamed Salah. But I'm doing this draft because I feel that Kane is a very good pick. Like I said, 9-point difference between Haaland and Kane last season. Haaland was the perma captain. Haaland was in a treble winning Manchester City team. Kane was in one of the worst ever Spurs teams in recent years. And yet, look at that 9-point FPL difference. If anything, Kane was like a talisman for Spurs last season, and they would have done far worse if he didn't score those 30 goals. So, yeah, double Arsenal defence. Not really happy with that. I'm not really going to get a Manchester United defender. I'm really concerned about like the games that they have, and also Onana has looked a bit problematic in some of the preseason friendlies as well. But as a whole, I feel I've covered all the bases. I want like I wanted like a. I know people have gone for a Mohamed Salah draft alongside Haaland, but the case has to be made for Harry Kane as well. I feel that he's been completely overlooked, and as it stands, he's in my penultimate draft. Now, if I get rid of him on Friday, out goes Kane, in comes Archer, out goes Nakamba, in comes Mohamed Salah. It's not a really hard change to do, so I can easily do that. The question I have to make this all work is, will Turner still be my goalkeeper? If he doesn't make the move, like I said, by Wednesday or Thursday, then it's going to completely screw this draft up. It will basically mean have to upgrade Turner to a 4.5 defender. And you know what? It's not the end of the world if I upgrade Saliba. Oh, if I switch out Saliba to a 4.5 defender. The problem is there aren't that many good ones for the opening games. In fact, I'll show you here on Draft Hound right now. Defenders, all clubs, 4.5 million. I mean, look at the difference. I'll just show you here. So 5.5 million. You've got Stupinan, you've got Stones, you've got Ruben Diaz, you've got Gabriel, got James, you've got Shaw, Chilwell, White. So you've got plenty of defenders to pick from. And then you can just see on screen there the number of fantasy returns they're getting. All of the 5.0 plus defenders are projected to literally get fantasy points almost in all of their opening 3 games. I might need to zoom out just so that you can see this. There we go. So you can see it right there. So for the anyone who's up to 5.5, 13.8. But then all of a sudden, I push it to 4.5 in terms of price. And then look at that. There's a massive points drop. Okay, I can potentially get Colwill, then have to start him potentially in game week 1 against Liverpool, which is a bit problematic. Let me get defenders here. Mings against Newcastle, you don't want to do that. Then you've got Veltman, not sure if he's going to even get many minutes. Cash, Henry, Pinnock, Romero, none of these defenders are really like, oh, wow, I must get them in. There's no wow factor here at all. The only one I'd consider actually is Colwill if I had had another 4.5 starting defender, really. But that's something that I need to factor in. And I'm not going to let FPL points be my sole focus. Like I've said in previous preseason videos, I had a big lesson learned from last season where rather than just relying on gut instinct, I have to factor in FPL points for 50-50 decisions. So it's something I'm considering. It's not the primary metric, but I never really considered FPL points at all. But it has helped me in making some 50-50 calls. So look, if I went by FPL points, if I just clear all the filters, I'd have Mohamed Salah in my team. But I feel that I want Harry Kane due to the form he's shown throughout the whole of last season, unsettled player, poor team, and yet he's still scoring goals. He's got some incredible motivation to be able to do that. And you've got Mohamed Salah, who is in a very attacking Liverpool team. They did really bad last season, but then he had a significant drop off with his actual output of goals and assists. Whereas with Harry Kane, there was an improvement somewhat from the previous season. So that case has to be made as well. That as much as I like FPL points, we have to factor that in. And if I sort this by a different metric here, so chance of scoring, we just might as well show this as well. Haaland, that's a bit strange. Why is he showing us 48%? That's anomalous. Let's go for chance of assist. There we go. De Bruyne, Grealish, 7.5 million as well. But yeah, it's a problematic one whereby I'm in a situation where even now, so that's my old team, beg your pardon. Is that my old team? Yes, it is. 1 second. Let me switch back to the new team. So yeah, once again, if you're seeing this and you haven't seen the previous start of the start of this, forces us a placeholder for Turner, and I really hope that move happens. If it hasn't happened, I'm not going to make another video on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm just going to do one on Friday now. But 4.0 starting goalkeepers for me might be the way forward. I know it didn't work last year with Iverson and Ward. It doesn't mean it can't work again, but I need to make the case for it so that I can accommodate this attacking front six and having a reasonable defense as well. So yeah, there you have it. It's not. I know it looks a bit like mishmash to some degree as well, but I feel more content with these changes than I had with João Pedro as a problematic second striker. Yeah, ideally, I'd be brave enough to downsize one of Fernandes, Rashford, and then get in Watkins, perhaps get Mohamed Salah. I could do it that way, but I'm not doing that right now. One of my biggest learnings is you need to go for balance, but at the same time, play the game the way it should be played. And clearly, FPL have reduced the prices of many attacking assets. And also, we've got this referee guidelines as well, whereby there's more minutes. So it's clear that players who are attackers with high X-mins, their probability of being on the pitch longer and the probability of them being involved in scoring goals or creating goals is going to increase this season. So that's something that is worth factoring in as well. But I want to do a 3-5-2, and I did have that in my first draft, but then I feel this 4-4-2 offers more balance. So look, as always, if you can like, share, and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And again, I have no doubt that my penultimate draft version number 2 is still a work in progress, but I feel that I've got my reference point now on where I want to be for the final draft. And there's no doubt I will be making more changes by Friday. But yeah, for now, I just needed that framework. So got Harry Kane in instead of Mohamed Salah. You cannot get in Kane, Haaland, and Salah without downsizing Saka, Rashford, and Fernandes. So it's not going to work. So there you have it. I've got the Golden Boot winner and the former Golden Boot winner in my squad. I've got Saka, Fernandes, and Rashford, who have proven themselves in FPL over the years. Mitoma with his breakout season in 22-23. Stupinan as well with his breakout season last season. Gabriel and Saliba, rock solid for Arsenal. in defence last season as well. Saliba before he got injured, then Walker, who, yeah, it could be a rotation risk, but I think he'll start the initial games at the very least. And then Forster is a placeholder for Turner. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Take care and all the best, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye.